Hey, good morning. Welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Iyun, Benzion. Today's daf is Nedarim, daf Zayin, number 47. The Gemara has a question on the bottom of Zayin and Aleph. The Gemara wants to know that normally when I ask fruits upon myself, I have a dozen apples, let's say. I want to ask them. I don't want to eat these apples. I don't like apples. I'm very against apples because Adam Arishon ate from the apple tree. Chava ate from the apple tree. So I don't like apples. So I don't want the apples. So what about I asked for the apples I'm getting benefit from, but then I exchange them for pears. Pears are good. Or I plant the apple seeds and apple trees grow. Are they usher or not? So the Mishnah says, not only usher in the apples to get benefit from them, you also can't get benefit from the pears that you exchange them from, or the money that you exchange it from, or if you planted it, chilufin and gidulin. So the Gemara, based on that Mishnah, the Gemara asks a question. The Gemara says, towards the bottom of Zayim and Aleph, Amar Kona Peros Ela Ploni. Right? You forbid your apples, not on yourself, on somebody else. On Shimon, the guy you hate from Shul. Can he benefit? He can't benefit from these fruits because you have the right to ask for your fruits on your friend because they belong to you. What about if you exchange them, right? I asked the apples and I exchanged them for 12 pears, right? Is he allowed, my friend, to go benefit from those 12 pears or not? So the Gemara really says this question centers on whether it's called a davar shelo ba'olam. Is chilufin, when I exchange apples for pears, is the pears considered ba'olam? In a certain sense, they are in the world, right? Because they were always in the marketplace. You just didn't exchange them for your apples because you didn't have reshusa over them. Or they're considered davar shelo ba'olam. They're not in the world at all because vis-a-vis me, I don't have any ownership of these pears yet. It's like something that happened in the future. So the Gemara says, if it's davar shelo ba'olam, then it wouldn't be able to do it. If it's not davar shelo ba'olam, then you wouldn't be able to do it. So the Gemara tries to bring proof on Mem Zayin and Beis to try to answer this question. One, it brings a Mishnah in Mesachas Kiddushin, but I want to focus on the first proof that it brings. Tashma Omer Liishta Konam Shani Nenelich. Takes a neder, his wife shouldn't benefit from him, both financially and physically, ostensibly. If he says the word konam, both are included. And then, so she can't benefit from him. Now, a husband has to feed his wife, but again, that chiyuv mazonos, according to most poskim, is only the rabbanan. So the nether would be chal midaraisa. So what could she do? She can go ahead and borrow money from somebody else. Now, ultimately, the husband has to pay back, right? If she borrows money to buy food that the husband owns her, the husband owes her, and the husband's refusing to pay, so it's actually machlokes in Mesachas Ksuvos, right? Hiniach mos al keren atzvir, not by Chanan abnei kohanim gedolim, whether she's entitled to pay back. But according to the rabbanan, she could be paid back, right? She could be paid back. So she borrows money and she says, "Go collect the debt from my husband." So the Gemara says she could do that. That she could borrow it. It doesn't say she could do it. Lava, she did it already. So they could go and the creditors get paid back by the husband. Now, when the creditors are getting back by the husband, the wife is benefiting indirectly, right? She borrowed money. That repayment of that loan, when you borrow money, most lahot sadnit, most are you can use whatever you want. However, it's like chilufin. You're exchanging that money for the money that the creditors are going to go and take from the husband. Now, she can't benefit from the husband, but she's indirectly benefiting the husband from the chilufin, for what he exchanged, right? She's borrowing money now, and the creditors are collecting the debt from her husband, collecting the money. So it's like the money she's borrows is being exchanged for the money the creditors are paying back from the husband. Is that okay or not? So the Gemara says that it works. They come and they get repaid, and that's allowed to happen. So you see that what chilufin are considered to be something like a davar shelo ba'olam, which you can't ask her. So the Gemara says the Prophet pushes it away. I'm a rabbi. Dilma lechatchilahu the law be avad. This case is talking about b'diavad. She already borrowed the money. B'diavad it would work. Lechatchila, she's not supposed to do this. And the Gemara has a second proof from Mesachas Kiddushin, a similar case of chilufin when it comes to Kiddushin. And the Gemara says b'diavad it works. Lechatchila, you're not supposed to do it. So what's the difference between lechatchila and b'diavad? So I want to stick to Nedarim, not the Kiddushin over here. When it comes to Nedarim, I'd say as follows. Again, we're talking about konam over here. A konam is a neder, a full-fledged neder, where you can compare it to a korban. We paskin like Rameir Yesh Me'ila b'konam, which is a concept of financial value by Nedarim. Because as I mentioned, Nedarim is you're making a new status on the chefsa it actually is chal on the chefsa itself, on the object itself. It had the monetary value of the object itself becomes usher in terms of not just the physical benefit from it, but also the financial isser is placed on the thing. It's not exactly like hektish, but there is me'ilah, there is restitution, has dinim like me'ilah, because it's not just a physical isser, no, it's also a financial isser of hana. If that's the case, so we can understand this difference of Gachila and B'diavad. Because Chilufin, what is Chilufin exactly? Chilufin, the Gemara questions, is it like Darash Leba Olam or not Darash Olam? I have apples. I go and I then exchange them for pears. Right? The pears were in the world, but they're not completely, they weren't in my Rishus. So there's a difference between Rishus and Shalom. I've mentioned many times. Shalom means I physically own the object. Rishus means I have the rights to the object. So Darash Leba Olam, it didn't come to the world yet, like a child that's not born yet. I have the rights to that child, but if my wife is pregnant, however, it's not physically in the world, so you can't call shalom. You have reshuso, you don't have shalom. Similarly, chilufin, right? Chilufin, when you exchange something for something else, so the product that you're exchanging for, the apples for the pears, right? Technically, I can exchange those apples for the pears, right? Some people might want more apples for the pears. It might be harder to get, but ultimately, usually you can purchase it. If something's on the market, pears are on the market, I could ultimately get that. It's in my Rishus. However, right now, it's not shalom. It doesn't belong to me. So therefore, when it comes to the Isser of Hana, Kona, there's two aspects of the Neder, on the Chefsa and the Gavra. The Chefsa is the value, the financial benefit from the object, and the Isser on the Gavra is that you can't benefit from the object, which is a din l'chadchila, right? The whole status, the whole Isser Chefsa, which creates a status, a chalos, on the object financially, is only if I own shalo, only I have the physical object in my possession, then I can answer the actual physical object. And there's a dinei mumnus on the Isser, a financial Isser. However, if it's like chilufin, the pairs that are not right now belong to me, so the most that I can answer on them, even if you don't say davar shlo ba'olam, the most that I can answer is the rishus, is the rights to it, which is not an Isser on the Chefsa, it's Isser on the Gavra. Isser on the Gavra can only be Isser on the Chadchila, right? When there's Isser on the Gavra, the Torah says don't do something. So the Chadchila, I shouldn't do it. If I did it, there's no ramifications afterwards because there's no status. Status is only on the Chefsa. So therefore, included in Makonam is an Isser on the financial aspect, and an Isser on when I ask for the apples on my friend, right? So financially, he can't benefit from it, and he can't benefit from. It's not on the Gavra, you also can't physically benefit from it. However, the Chilufin, I only have Rishus, I only have the rights to exchange my apples for pears. I don't own right now the pears, so I can't ask for them financially. So therefore, if I exchange them for pears, all that transferred to it was not an Isra on the Chalos, on the financial aspect, only on the physical aspect. And that's an Isra Gavra. So therefore, B'diavad, if she borrowed money, so therefore the creditors can pay back from her husband because that's B'diavad, she already borrowed the money. So chilufin is b'diavad is mutter. That's an Isra Gavra, and b'diavad an Isra Gavra is not a problem. Only chachila is an Isra Gavra. Only when it comes to an Isra Chefsa do we say b'diavad it would be a problem. Hope you enjoyed today's share. See you on the next one.